The Amulet. So Chai was a young man who had just begun to make ends meet in the bustling city of Bangkok. He worked as a bellhop at a small motel nestled within one of the many districts that made up this chaotic metropolis. It wasn't an easy job, but it paid enough for him to cover his rent and simple daily needs. One day a customer arrived with complaints about lost luggage, blaming Chai unfairly. Despite being innocent, he was fired by the manager on the spot, leaving him without any recourse or support in this unforgiving city. Chai tried applying for other jobs, hoping that someone would see his potential and give him another chance. However, one rejection after another left him feeling defeated. It seemed as though Bangkok had no room for a man like him anymore. As the days went by, Chai's savings began to dwindle, leaving him with only enough money to cover his rent for a few more weeks. The thought of returning to his poor hometown in Nongbyo Lampa province crossed his mind, but he couldn't bring himself to give up on the city that had once held so much promise. With no other options left and the looming deadline for his rent fast approaching, Chai found himself at a crossroads, his heart heavy with uncertainty. He wondered if giving up was truly the right choice or even an option at all. Chai had reached his breaking point. With the decision to return home all but made, he found himself wandering through Bangkok's bustling streets one last time. As he walked past the vibrant markets and colorful stalls, a sense of resignation washed over him. It was in this state that Chai stumbled upon an amulet shop tucked away within the city's winding alleyways. The store seemed out of place among its more modern neighbors, but it caught his attention nonetheless. Desperate for any chance at turning his life around, he decided to venture inside and see what wonders it held. The owner of the shop was a peculiar old man with knowing eyes that seemed to hold secrets untold. Chai explained his situation and asked if there were any jobs available within the store or perhaps some other opportunity that could help him escape his current despair. The old man listened intently, nodding along as he spoke. "I have something else I can offer you," said the shop owner cryptically. "It's an amulet known as a Kumanthong, one that is rumored to bring great fortune and prosperity to those who possess it." But Chai was intrigued but also skeptical of this stranger's claims. However, with no other options left, he decided to take his chances. "I'll buy the amulet," Chai said finally, handing over all the money he had saved up for months just on a whim. The old man smiled knowingly as he wrapped the golden Kumanthong in delicate silk cloth and handed it to him. "Be careful with this one. Many have tried to harness its power before you but failed." Chai left the shop, clutching his newfound treasure tightly against his chest. He wondered if this gamble would be enough to change his fate or simply another futile attempt at finding happiness in a city that seemed determined to swallow him whole. As he walked back towards his apartment, Chai couldn't help but feel both hopeful and apprehensive about the days ahead. With nothing left to lose, he decided to put all his faith into this mysterious amulet, hoping it would be enough to save him from the brink of despair that threatened to consume him entirely. The days passed with no change in Chai's fortune, only a growing sense of desperation. The weight of his failures pressed down on him like an unyielding force, suffocating the hope that once flickered within his chest. One fateful day, as he was rushing through the crowded streets, clutching at straws for any semblance of salvation, Chai's grip on the Kumanthong loosened ever so slightly. In a heartbeat, it slipped from his fingers and fell to the ground with an all-too-solid thud. The amulet cracked upon impact, its golden surface now marred by deep fissures that seemed to spread like veins across its body. A dark liquid began seeping out of the cracks, staining the pavement beneath Chai's heart sank into despair. Later that same day, he was struck with a cruel twist of fate. His rent was due and there was no way for him to pay it now, with time running out and hope dwindling. Chai wandered aimlessly through Bangkok's streets, feeling like a ghost haunting the city he once called home. Just when all seemed lost, Fortune's fickle smile turned towards him in an unexpected turn of events, as if guided by unseen hands or perhaps just sheer luck. Chai stumbled upon a wallet abandoned on the sidewalk by some Farangs who had hastily left their belongings behind. The contents within were more than enough to cover his rent and even allow for a small celebration, a rare luxury he hadn't indulged in for years. With trembling fingers, Chai counted out the cash, feeling as though he'd been given a lifeline amidst the turbulent sea of his life's chaos. That evening found him sitting alone on his worn-out couch, devouring his favorite dish from street vendors who had become like old friends to him. The flavors danced upon his tongue, momentarily transporting him away from the harsh realities that plagued him daily. As he ate, So Chai couldn't shake off a feeling of unease, as though unblinking eyes were trained on him, watching and waiting for their moment to strike. He tried to dismiss it as paranoia born out of desperation, but could not ignore the sensation that something was amiss in this world where fortunes shifted like shadows cast by an unseen moon. The darkness within Chai's heart seemed to grow thicker than the night around him, suffocating any glimmering hope he dared entertain. As his spoon scraped against the empty bowl, a single question echoed through his mind. Was it all just desperate imagination, or was something far more sinister unfolding in the shadows of Bangkok? As the first tendrils of night crept into Bangkok's bustling streets, Chai huddled in his cramped apartment, a sense of dread gnawing at him like rats feasting on decay. The cracked amulet lay before him, its once radiant golden hue now dulled by tarnish and despair. The air grew thick with an almost palpable tension as the alien entity stirred within the broken relic. It coalesced from the ether, a malevolent presence that only Chai could perceive, a shadow in the shadows, watching and waiting for the perfect moment to strike its bargain. It's Chai, it whispered into his mind, voice like dry leaves rustling through an ancient graveyard. I am not what you expected. I am different. The alien's formlessness pressed against the boundaries of Chai's sanity, a cold touch that promised both salvation and damnation in equal measure. Oh, I can give you wealth, it continued, its words dripping with seductive venom, but at a price your soul will come to regret. Chai hesitated, his breath catching like a trapped bird's. The offer was intoxicating, the allure of financial freedom too great to resist. Yet he felt an icy hand on his spine as he contemplated what it would cost him. Take me, Chai uttered finally, voice barely louder than a confession whispered in a confessional's hush. The alien's presence surged around him like a shroud, its power coursing through the room with the subtlety of a serpent's embrace. It began to work its will upon Bangkok and upon Chai, subtly manipulating events from behind the veil for their mutual benefit. Within days, Chai found himself embroiled in activities that skirted the edges of morality, small-time scams and schemes that paid off just enough to keep him afloat but left him with an uneasy conscience. The alien fed on his emotions like a leech at the vein, draining Chai's vitality until he felt as though he was perpetually teetering between exhaustion and despair. Despite this, life improved for Chai in ways both astonishing and unsettling. Jobs came easily, promotions piled up faster than fallen leaves after an autumn gale. Within months, he moved from a cramped apartment to one that sprawled with the luxury of space, a testament to his newfound fortune, but also a prison of his own making. The alien's influence wove through Chai's life like a silent conductor orchestrating a symphony of success and suffering in equal measure. It was invisible to all except Chai. Its presence felt only by him as it siphoned the very essence from his being. And so, Chai lived out his days under the illusion of prosperity, never truly understanding what cost he had paid for that which he now possessed, a fortune built on foundations of deceit and a life force slowly draining away. Chai's life had always been a struggle, one step forward followed by 2 steps back, but with the alien's guidance, he found himself propelled into an existence that was both exhilarating and terrifying. The first few months were like riding a comet faster than anything Chai could have imagined. The alien whispered in his ear, guiding him through schemes and ventures that yielded surprising returns. It wasn't long before Chai moved from the cramped confines of his old apartment to one that sprawled with promise and possibility, a testament to his newfound prowess. He started small street vendors selling knockoff goods, petty scams on unsuspecting tourists, but each scheme was a stepping stone, building upon the last until he found himself running a legitimate business, albeit one with shady underpinnings. It was an honest money, but it was effective, and Chai knew that his days of scraping by were over. As the months passed in what felt like a blur, Chai's reputation grew. His name became synonymous with savvy business acumen and an uncanny ability to turn nothing into something. He hired staff, expanded operations, and reveled in every moment of success. The alien watched from the shadows, its influence weaving through each deal, each negotiation. The toll on Chai was immense. He felt like a battery running low, his energy sapped by unseen forces that only he could perceive. Yet with each transaction, each calculated risk, he found himself further ensnared in the web of deceit spun by the alien's insidious touch. Despite this creeping sense of dread, life had never been better for Chai on paper. He lounged in his new home, a sprawling bungalow that was once just a dream now within reach. The money flowed like water. He could afford anything his heart desired. but beneath it all lay the knowledge that each victory came at a cost: his vitality, his peace of mind. So Chai knew what he had become: a man of wealth but not of spirit. He felt hollow inside, an empty shell filled with gold and nothing else. Still, there was no turning back now. So Chai's future seemed set in stone, even if it meant living a life that wasn't truly his own. As the alien continued to whisper its dark counsel into his ear, So Chai couldn't shake off the feeling of impending doom, a storm gathering on the horizon, waiting for the perfect moment to unleash its fury. But he pushed those thoughts aside and focused on what lay before him: more deals, more power, a life lived in the shadow of an entity that was anything but human. The ascent had been swift, so Chai's fall would be just as precipitous. So Chai had never known true contentment, but he was living it now. His life had transformed from a struggle to an indulgence, every whim catered to by the wealth that flowed like water through his hands. But on this day, as Chai lounged in his opulent home, savoring another exquisite meal prepared for him alone, there came a presence, a chill wind whispering at the edges of his perception. The alien had returned, its formless mass seeping into reality with an intent that was unmistakable and dire. So Chai's heart sank as he recognized the entity. It bore the same insidious aura that had led him to this moment, this pinnacle from which there could only be a fall. "What do you want now?" So Chai asked, his voice betraying more fear than defiance. The alien didn't answer in words, but instead presented itself with an ethereal gesture towards Chai's being, a silent plea for the exchange they both knew was due. So Chai thought he understood their deal: the draining of a bit of life here and there, like dipping into a well from which one could always return to fullness. But now, as his fear crystallized into dread, he realized that this time would be different. So Chai's fate hung in the balance like never before. "I don't know if I can give you more," So Chai whispered, anguish lacing each syllable. "I'm already so empty." The alien didn't respond with reassurances or comfort, it simply waited, its presence a reminder that time was running out for any objection So Chai might have. With the reluctance of one walking towards an abyss, So Chai consented to this next step in their twisted dance. He braced himself as the entity reached into his soul once more, but what followed exceeded anything he had experienced before. The alien took not just a portion of So Chai's vitality or emotional strength, it consumed them entirely, leaving him withered and aged beyond human limits. Within moments, where there was once vigor, there now lay desiccated flesh. Where life pulsed strongly, death claimed dominion in an instant. So Chai clutched at his chest as the amulet that had been the source of this nightmare weighed heavy against his heart. He felt its power, the cursed object that connected him to the alien's will, now a cold reminder of all he'd lost and could never regain. As So Chai lay on the floor, his life slipping away like grains through an hourglass, there was no time for regret or repentance, only the stark realization that it had come to this. The last thing in his failing grasp was not despair but acceptance of a fate sealed by his own desperate bargain. The alien's form dissipated as quickly as it appeared, leaving So Chai alone with his thoughts and the silence of a life now ended before its time. He clutched the amulet until his grip weakened, then he let go, releasing any hope that holding on might spare him from this grim fate. So Chai lay in stillness, aged beyond recognition, an old man's eyes staring into eternity as the world outside continued without him, a millionaire no more but a cautionary tale of ambition and its cost. The morning news in Bangkok unfolded with its usual blend of local politics and international intrigue, but today it carried a story that piqued the interest of viewers across the city. At first glance, the screen was dominated by the familiar face of the anchorwoman whose poise belied the gravity of what she was about to share. "Good morning," her voice cut through the gentle hum of the studio. "Today's lead story is a mystery that has left many in our community bewildered and concerned. Overnight millionaire So Chai Nutai has vanished without a trace." The screen shifted to footage of So Chai's opulent mansion, its grandeur now overshadowed by an eerie stillness. The camera panned across the empty grounds before settling on the front door, a symbol of wealth that had been abruptly vacated. So Chai was last seen enjoying his lavish lifestyle just days ago, explained the anchorwoman with a somber tone. But what transpired since then remains unknown. The visuals transitioned to images of So Chai's acquaintances, people who were now left pondering their own connections to him, a web of relationships that seemed to unravel without explanation. "Police are currently investigating all possible leads," she continued, her voice carrying the weight of a city intrigued and unsettled. "However, they have found an unidentified corpse within his home." The screen showed police officers securing the area as forensic experts in white suits moved with deliberate care inside Soem Chai's mansion, a stark contrast to its former opulence. Included among the items seized by authorities is what appears to be a small amulet, she noted, her voice measured against the tide of rumors that had already begun to spread, though its significance remains unclear at this time. It has been sent for further analysis. The camera zoomed in on the police tape, fluttering gently as if trying to keep pace with the questions swirling around its perimeter. The identity of this old man remains unconfirmed, she concluded, her gaze lingering on the screen before shifting back to the anchorwoman. As we await further developments from the authorities, Soem Chai's sudden disappearance and the mystery surrounding his final days continue to captivate our city. The newsroom faded out with a reminder that tips could be called into an anonymous hotline. A call that might just unravel the enigma of what had become known as the vanishing of Soem Chai. As viewers turned away from their screens, they were left not only with unanswered questions but also with a sense of unease, in a city where life was once vibrant and full of stories. One tale stood out, Soem Chai's vanishing act, a story that would linger long after the news cycle moved on to other matters. The end had come for Soem Chai Pechennutai, not in grandeur but in silence, an ending as mysterious as his disappearance.
The artifact recovered from local authorities in the Pechennutai case is now in custody. Its materials and design point to Mexico, linked to an incidence of the missing barrio. Coincidence unknown. Further testing is underway.